Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. If it is your first time joining, welcome. My name is Ilan, and I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host who has now returned from Europe with a beautiful tan. Jeremy, how are we?
I'm well, mate. Thank you for that very lovely intro. It's good to be back behind the mics again. Certainly missed it whilst away for a couple of weeks. But yeah, very keen to dive in. We have some really cool, interesting things planned for the next month in particular. So stay tuned and let's kick it off with this one today.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about micro cheating. I think a lot of people have heard this term before. It's essentially what you would define as cheating, but on a very minor and more subtle scale,
It's
right?
become a bit of a trendier term, hasn't it, on social media recently, micro cheating. I'd never heard of it last year, but it's popping up quite commonly now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Even just colloquially in conversation.
It is. And I think something I thought about is like, why has it become so much more prominent? And I think with things like technology, it's so much easier to do things behind someone's back. Whereas, maybe 30, 40 years ago, those sorts of subtleties were probably more restricted to the work context. If someone went to work and they had like a work husband or a work girlfriend and so forth. And I think nowadays it's just so much easier. The access is there. So therefore, if the access is there, you're more likely to potentially do some naughty things.
Yeah, it's not good. And I think one big factor when thinking about micro cheating is like, well, how do you actually define it? How is micro cheating different to a major act of cheating, right? Because typically with major acts of cheating, we think of ultimate betrayal of your partner, sleeping with someone else or engaging in any form of relationship with someone else, whether it is intimate, like I've mentioned, or whether it is completely emotional to a degree that is so macro. So what is it on a micro level? And does that have the same gravity as normal and or macro cheating?
Like, if you were to use a litmus test, the way I'd always define it is if you're not comfortable to do it in front of your partner, chances are it is micro cheating. And as harsh as that
100%.
might sound, it might not be macro cheating, but it is micro cheating. And it's those little paper cuts that can inevitably end the relationship over time.
I like that. I like that paper cut thing, so that little taint of the situation that is enough to create a little bit of pain and a little bit of hurt towards that person. But if that happens, not even on a consistent scale of times, but I feel like even if that happens in a time period that is maybe a bit vulnerable, or your boundaries or your communication and your needs have not been, communicated well amongst each other, those little paper cuts, they can turn into big scars and big scabs, can't they?
Yeah, it becomes a slippery slope, because what starts off as maybe a casual texting with someone that that you met maybe at work or at uni or school, whatever you might be, once that becomes a bit more routinized and you become really comfortable with them, it's much easier for that to progress into other forms of micro cheating, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just texting, it might be like, oh, I'm just hanging out with a friend, but I'm not telling you who that friend is. I'm not telling you when I'm hanging out with them, in what environment. So I think it just ends up becoming a massive and a major slippery slope. Interestingly, though, everyone has different perspectives on what constitutes micro cheating, and we were looking at the topic before. Some people think it's watching pornography. I don't think that's micro cheating. I don't think that's cheating in and of itself, and I'm going to link our episode, is watching pornography cheating. I think we did that like maybe 15, 20 weeks ago. I don't personally believe it is, but I'm open to change my mind. But then there's more kind of blatant things. So like, I'll ask you this, like really rogue example. Does following a bunch of like inappropriate accounts on Instagram, is that micro cheating?
That's a big one that comes up often, and we will dive into a list of examples, and we'll make it nice and interactive so that you guys can have your say as well. And that is one on the list. So we are, we're jumping the gun a bit there, but we're jumping the gun with purpose, because that is a very popular example, and absolutely it is, in my opinion. Why would you be following a bunch of women, if you are a guy, that you have no connection to just because they're good looking on any form of social media platform? Why are you doing that? what do you think that sends as a message, not just to your partner, but what message does that show about yourself? And this is so public nowadays with being on the phones and looking at who people are following. Like, you are in the public light, like other people can see that too. So you need to have a good look at yourself and just remind yourself that this isn't just your phone, and it's not just a relationship between you and your phone and what you're consuming and what you're looking at when it comes to social media. People can see that. People can go onto your profile and see that, you know, bloody Frank Smith or whatever your name is following 25 OnlyFans girls with blue ticks and links in their bio. So anyone can see that. So you're not only making yourself look like a complete fool in a public eye, but it's tainting yourself on many levels, publicly and personally, and of course with your relationship, because that is undeniably micro cheating. There's no question about it.
I don't think it's micro cheating, but I think it's a massive ick. So I don't think I think you're disrespecting the current relationship you have.
Right.
But I don't think you're necessarily cheating on your partner or spouse, because you're not actually maintaining a relationship with these people. So for me, my definition of micro cheating is you've got the disrespect component, you've got the component of not doing it in front of your partner or spouse, but it's also having some sort of said relationship with someone else. That's my definition. That's not to say I don't think it's disrespectful. I think it is. I don't think it's a massive ick. It's like everything leaves, as you said, like everything leaves a literal digital footprint. With AI coming out, with more developed models of, you know, AI, it's so much easier now to track down people, and give it 10, 15 years, it'll be much easier to see who you follow. And the thing is, it doesn't take much. Like, if I go onto your Instagram following and have a look at who you follow, I could easily find if you were supposedly following these OnlyFans models.
Yeah.
How easy it is. But some people don't think it is a big deal, because some people are like, well, how is it any different to, let's say, if my partner's following like a really attractive actor who might not have OF content, but, you know, they're always posting shirtless pics and they're just jacked and they've got this massive sex appeal, and everyone knows they've got massive sex appeal, but it's not in the same explicit way as I suppose as like maybe an OF model, right?
I think it is different. I think it's about the purpose behind the person. So like, you know, an OF model as the example you say versus like a Chris Hemsworth, you know, maybe yes, objectively good looking guy, muscular guy, whatever. But if a girl, maybe your girlfriend, is following him because she might find him attractive, but she also likes him as an actor and likes him in the movies he plays, then I feel like there is a little bit of difference there versus just following someone who has got like no level of like fame other than fame for just getting naked on camera. I think that's a bit different there.
Oh, I don't deny it's different. I'm just saying I still think that in a lot of ways, like, it's not really micro cheating. I think they could both be disrespectful if the purpose behind it was just to Google at them, like use your eyes just to kind of admire their physical qualities. But I think it's much easier to shit on someone following an OF star than it is someone who's following maybe an actor, and they might not even watch their movies, but they just find them really attractive because they post shirtless photos. And I think that's kind of swept under the rug. It's like the whole thing, again, back to the pornography conversation. It's much easier to shit on people who watch pornography, but not shit on people reading erotica books, when
that's
reality
true.
Is the purpose is the same. One is just couched under more subtlety.
That's true.
But curious. Yeah, go on. You would ask me?
Yeah, I was going to interject and say you had a really interesting definition there of what you feel micro cheating is. You felt like it is disrespect for your partner, but also engaging in some form of relationship with that act, with that person, with what you're doing. I feel like the disrespect personally is just enough. And I think that comes back to the litmus test. I don't think every act of micro cheating needs to be with the characteristic of potentially having some form of relationship or engaging in some form of relationship. Because if we come back to our definition of micro cheating, which is, or rather the litmus test for what is micro cheating, which is, would you be comfortable with your partner seeing or witnessing what you're doing right now in this act, I feel like that litmus test mainly encapsulates or wholeheartedly encapsulates disrespect and doesn't really mention anything to do with intention. It's just really a matter of, is this act right now disrespectful, regardless of whether I'm engaging in some form of relationship here? Is it just blatantly disrespectful, and would I not want my partner to see this?
But the thing is, the reason I don't necessarily agree with that is because you can be disrespectful about your partner, or be disrespectful towards the relationship you have without you necessarily cheating on them. As an example, let's say I'm shitting on my partner to you and saying how bad of a girlfriend she is. And yeah, that's really me disrespecting the relationship, but it's not me cheating on her, right? Whereas if you're a girl I found attractive and I was supposedly friends, quote unquote, and I started shitting on my girlfriend to you, saying how bad of a person she is, and then there's this like unsaid chemistry between us, I would say that's micro cheating, because in that relationship, I'm almost like doing two things. I'm disrespecting the relationship. I'm doing something that I wouldn't be comfortable with my partner knowing, but I'm also doing it with maybe the subconscious or unconscious motive of trying to cultivate a flirtatious relationship with you, even if I'm not overly aware of it. Because I'm choosing to stay in this dialogue with you. I'm choosing to try and cultivate this chemistry with you. And I'm doing it with the means of shitting on my partner. So I think like that needs to be also considered. I still think disrespect is enough to end a relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think that you like it needs to have the label of micro cheating. I think though that if you have an element of disrespect, that's ultimately can be a form of mini betrayal as well. It can be a form of major betrayal. But I think I like what you said there, because it got me thinking. And I thought about it because there's a few examples there. But I've got a question. Should we talk about why it happens? Why does micro cheating happen? Then we'll maybe go through a few other examples.
Yeah, you alluded to it before, mainly being in this digital age, the tendency to do things more with freedom and less boundaries versus in older times, pre-phones, pre-social media. But why it happens, as a lot of our topics come back down to when we talk about relationships, it comes back down to, I believe, boundaries, communication. Those are the crux of it. If you are unable to set those boundaries with your partner, when we say boundaries, because that can sometimes sound like a buzz term, but so maybe we'll just define that again. So what does that mean to just set those boundaries and be in the same mindset as your partner as to what you expect? That's what it is. It's talking about what you guys expect of one another, talking about how you guys should act when meeting other people, maybe of the opposite sex, being at parties, being in maybe club environments or bar environments, being away from another, and maybe talking about what happens when those things arise. Because there will be situations in life where, maybe your partner will go out one night and they might get approached by someone. They might be at the bar sitting with their girlfriends and they might get approached by a guy. How is that guy who is approaching that girl meant to know that she is in a relationship? He's not going to know that. So I like to think about almost like the power dynamic in that scenario. If we use that example where a guy has come up to your girlfriend and you're not there and it's at a bar, the guy in that scenario, he is almost free to do that act because he doesn't know anything about this girl. He's just approaching a girl he finds attractive. But the girl in that scenario with the boyfriend, she's the one that essentially has the power, right? She has the power to say, I'm in a relationship. Maybe thank you for the compliment, but I'm in a relationship. So we're leaving it there. But if they keep inviting the conversation and maybe giving into the flirtatious energy, and one thing leads to the next and they're still conversing, and that conversation about her actually being in a relationship has not come up, when she knows full well that he has come up to her with an approach of flirtation, with an approach of a means of potentially trying to get to know her, that is where the micro cheating comes into play. And that is where the power imbalance kind of came through, and she probably did the wrong thing in that scenario. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. What, you're just trying to... What is the purpose of having this conversation with this person when they've come up to you and you know they're flirting with you and you haven't told them that you've got a partner?
Yeah.
And you're just continuing to have this conversation because A, you're probably receiving some form of validation, or B, you don't have that much respect for your own relationship.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And I think it's okay to be cutthroat with it. You go out nowadays and, you know, you see it when you go traveling because it's an easier opportunity. How many people are like very happy to not mention the fact that they've got a partner, and see how far they can push the boundaries
Just
with
because it
someone.
like strokes their ego.
Because they know they're not going to sleep with them that night, right? But I can, you know what I can do instead? I know I'm not going to sleep with you because obviously that would be a big moral blue, but I can at least tolerate flirting with you a little bit. I can tolerate you flirting with me a little bit. And then if things go too far, you know what my safe word is? I've got a boyfriend, I've got a girlfriend, whatever.
Yeah, and you've already done the micro cheating up to that point.
You've done that up to that point. And, you know, it might not feel... You might not feel the same level of guilt, let's say, if you were to like sleep with them, but it's still a moral boo-boo. And, you know, another thing we spoke about, you said why it happens. I think it happens for the same reason cheating happens, right? I think it happens because the relationship's gone to shit. Someone wants validation from somewhere else. They want their emotional needs to be met somewhere else. They weren't able to resolve the issue in-house in the context of their own relationship, so they outsource it to another person. They did a study looking at two groups of people who both did the same wrong thing, and assessing their level of guilt. And the people that knew they were going to get caught felt way more guilt than the people that knew that they weren't going to get caught. So it just shows that if you know you're not going to get caught, your likelihood of feeling remorseful and feeling guilty is much lower. And I think nowadays, if I can delete a message with you, it's way less of a risk for me to feel guilty. And I'm way more willing to do it. I also think another reason this shit happens, cheating's always existed. It's always existed. It's not like maybe it's increased, but I think it's more so we're just more able to catch onto it now. I think it's just been maybe a loosening of moral standards when it comes to relationships. I think just as the world's modernized, there's been more opportunity, as there's more technological advances, it's much easier for things to slip under the radar. And I think that, you know, traditional means of living has kind of gone out the window. It's way more popular now for people to have like open relationships. It's much more open for people to, you know, talk, you know, everything's way more sexualized, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think as a consequence of that, there's a loosening of certain standards in relationships, and it's murky waters to try and navigate. But I think if we're really answering why does it happen, it's for the same reason that cheating happens. Just you're more willing to do it because you're going to feel less guilty, because you're not going to actually probably get caught doing it. And you can always feign ignorance. And that's what shits me off. People will do it and feign ignorance. So the same people are like, oh...
It was just casual flirting.
Not even that. It's like you're at a club. Well, can't I make friends at a club? Can't I like talk to this person I met? Like... And this is where different...
They just came up to me and spoke to me.
It was where different perspectives matter, because for some person, they're like, you know, I was just having fun. I was just, you know, enjoying my night out. I can't talk to random people. It's not like it's going to eventuate anywhere. Because for some people, they're going to be like, how's it micro-cheating if I know it's not going to eventuate anywhere? Right? For some people, it's like, yeah, I can flirt with them. They can buy me a drink. I can buy them a drink. I think that's more of an extreme sense. But like, for some people, it's like, if I don't actually commit the cheating, then it's not micro cheating.
Yeah. But if, you know, great example, if you're accepting a drink from a guy that he, you know, he wants to buy you a drink and you're accepting it, even though you are in a relationship, that's a blatant form of micro cheating. That guy's not buying you drinks because he just feels like it.
Unless you harvested your kidney because they needed an extra kidney. Yeah.
He's doing it with a means of, you know, wanting that opportunity to talk with you, to get to know you, to most likely flirt with you and try to make a move on you. So, and in a bar scenario, in a club scenario, or just in any scenario where one person is single and the other person is in a relationship, people have fucked morals. Like, that person who is single, they might not have the same level of morals as you. They probably do not care if they're making those moves. They probably get a bit of a buzz by trying to test those waters, trying to see how moral you might be, trying to see if it's almost like a game for them. So this is where, we speak about like the power imbalance in this scenario. And I think that's, that might sound really extreme, but I think it's something that you really must be aware of when you are in a relationship and you are just being in the world around you, and you're going to encounter people in work, in uni, in traveling, whatever. You're going to encounter other people in life, and you need to be really good at setting those boundaries straight when those potential risky opportunities, or not even opportunities, but those potential risky scenarios are met with you, like when someone does come up and approach you and does try to flirt with you. And you know what? Like I was saying before, in terms of breakdown of communication, breakdown of boundaries, it is okay for you to voice to your partner if something like this has happened. It is okay for you to come back from a night out with your girl mates and say, hey, just letting you know, like, this guy, he actually, like, he came up to me, and he maybe wanted to try buy me a drink, and I felt like he was a bit flirty, and it made me feel a bit uncomfortable, and I wasn't really so sure how to navigate it, because maybe I just felt a bit heightened in that moment, or a bit confused of what to do. But don't worry, I like nothing happened, but just letting you know that did happen, and it made me feel a bit uncomfortable, and I wanted to tell you. I think that's awesome to voice that to your partner, because one, it shows that you have the trust in your partner to talk about these things that are uncomfortable, and that it has arisen and it's potentially risky, but you're then able to actually form a solution as to, okay, thank you for telling me, when this does happen again, maybe this is how you should go about it. And that's where the boundaries are met, and that's where your communication is only getting better, and that conversation is only strengthening you guys as a whole, because here you are discussing a situation which made one of you feel quite uncomfortable, and you now know that if that was to happen again in the future, you know wholeheartedly how to tackle it, and you know that your partner is going to have the ultimate strength, trust, and belief in you that all will be okay. And that's what a secure relationship is.
Yeah, I think if you can be transparent about those things, it's always a win. But one thing I was just kind of thinking about in that example is it can be really difficult for a girl and a bit intimidating sometimes in those environments, especially if a guy comes up to you and he's like pressuring to buy you a drink, and then he does buy you a drink. It's like, for a girl, it might be way more intimidating and it might be hard to navigate, because you might be thinking, okay, like, I don't want to piss him off and maybe start a fight here. If I say, like, no, I've got a boyfriend, so what's the best way? Do I just accept the drink maybe and then just give him a cold shoulder? Yeah, I think we lose our sense of compassion in those circumstances. Jeremy, I want to reel off a bunch of examples. It's almost going to be like rapid fire. You're going to tell me if it's micro cheating or not. Daydreaming or fantasizing about someone else. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be sexual, but you're just thinking about them. Micro cheating, yes or no?
Yeah, I believe that's micro cheating. You're fantasizing about someone else, even if you're doing it on a subconscious level. I mean, dreams. If it's unconscious though, like, you can't control that. No one's aware of their unconscious. So that's like, when you're asleep, you can't control that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're just like, Sunday afternoon sitting on the couch, daydreaming about a past fantasy or thinking about someone, yeah, I would say that's on the level of micro cheating.
I'm not as cutthroat as you. I don't think it's micro cheating. I think your thoughts and your fantasies are your thoughts and your fantasies, and I think assuming it's not happening repetitively and it's not happening like consistently, because if something
if it is,
then that's a bit, I wouldn't say it's micro cheating. I would just say you should probably address what's at the bottom of that. Go seek therapy. Go seek someone to talk to and see why is that happening. Because that's not just coming out of isolation, but if it happens once in a while. Thing is, people have intrusive thoughts all the time. People have such fucked thoughts all the time. And
if you're able to
hold on. But the reason is, but yeah, you can respond to it. But
if you're able to snap yourself out of it.
100%. But thoughts on something I always emphasize, and this is what you tell people with obsessive compulsive disorder, is that your thoughts aren't inherently evil.
Yeah.
And if you treat your thoughts as inherently evil, it's not a good thing, because so we have what are called automatic thoughts.
So if you have a thought like that, right? Let's just say you have a thought like that, and it comes up into your mind, and you kind of kick yourself about it after. You're like, well, like, why did that come up into your mind? What you're saying is you shouldn't kick yourself about it, because you've actually responded well in that scenario. You've acknowledged that that's like, it's just an odd thought. It's a bizarre thought. You don't actually want to relive that in any way, and you couldn't really control that thought.
Yes.
And you've recognized that it's bad and it's not true.
Daydreaming and fantasizing about someone doesn't necessarily mean that you want to fulfill that daydream or fantasy. Like, the amount of times I've been driving in a car and I've had an intrusive thought, well, I think everyone else has as well. You just learn to realize that's just normal part of being human. We get fucked up thoughts from time to time, and that's completely. I don't think that's micro cheating. I think just the quantity. If it's happening a lot, then yeah, oversharing personal problems with someone who's your friend but also happens to be quite attractive instead of your partner.
Yeah, well, if you're not sharing them with your partner, but you're sharing it with other people, I would say, I don't know if it's micro cheating, but I think it's you just got to ask yourself, well, why don't I feel comfortable enough to talk about this with my partner? Like, I feel like your communication is just shit with them.
That, or
I don't think you're cheating on your partner by discussing things about your relationship with others and not them. I think that's just a poor breakdown of communication and trust with your partner.
okay. Don't necessarily disagree. I think as well it's hard because in that scenario maybe there's something that you just can't actually for the life of you bring up with that partner because you just don't know how they might
This
react.
is a good one. What about saying things like, if I wasn't in a relationship, I'd do this, or I'd be with them?
Not micro cheating, but very icky comment.
I think it's 100% micro
I don't
cheating.
think. I'll explain what I mean by that. If you're saying like, if I wasn't with my current partner, but I really like those sort of attributes in someone, that's the sort of person I'd want to be with. I don't think that's necessarily micro cheating. I think it's a bit of an ick, but it's like there's a way to. What I mean by that is like if you're in a relationship with someone and someone asks you a question like, oh, who would you be in a relationship? Would you if you weren't in a relationship now, what kind of qualities and characteristics would you want in your next relationship? It's not an uncommon thing sometimes to be like, yeah, this person is a great example of someone who exemplifies.
Let's strip it back though. I said, like, for example, you're at a bar, you're with a group of your mates, all the boys, and one of the boys who's in a relationship says like, oh, if I wasn't in a relationship, I'd go for her.
No, that's icky. Yeah, that's.
I think it's micro cheating. It's 100% micro cheating.
I don't think you should be with someone who would ever vocalize that. I think that's disrespectful.
But that's a common thing we hear. Like, people say that, and I think that's micro cheating.
But under my definition, they're not actually commencing a relationship or any sort of. They're just saying something that's on their mind.
But I think that
it's disrespectful. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a boo boo, and I think you shouldn't be with someone. Don't conflate the two things. I just think that like you can't. Look, my definition is you've got to actually be not just disrespecting the current relationship you have. You have to be having another relationship with someone else. I just think. It's a bit of how would your partner feel in that case if they heard you say that?
Could you not also though make the argument that by saying if I wasn't in a relationship, I would do this or I would go for them, the I would in that sentence is the intention of wanting to form something, and therefore that is micro cheating?
Nah. I don't think so because people use poor words all the time, and I don't think that necessarily means that they would go for them. Or I think the way I interpreted this is like in a very kind of practical way. It's like if I'm dating someone and someone said to you like, oh, if you weren't dating this partner, what kind of person do you think you'd want to go for? And you say, I'd want to go for someone who has these qualities, these characteristics. Someone I think of as this person doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go for them. It's just like, sometimes the people we date, they're an embodiment of a bunch of characteristics and values that you want to see in someone else. I think it's a disrespectful thing because I think it's like, why are you talking about it in the first place? It's like channel that energy to your own relationship.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I think it's disrespectful. I just don't think it's necessarily micro cheating. Okay. Deleting messages or call logs so your partner won't see them.
Yeah, micro cheating. You're hiding stuff from your partner. There's things that you are... that's making you feel uncomfortable about what you're doing. You're withholding truth from them, and that's therefore micro cheating.
Fair. holding up a girl on your shoulders at a music festival.
Yep, say that's micro cheating too. You know, why are you offering a girl to go up on your shoulders at a music festival? You know, again, going back down to the litmus test, if my girlfriend was with me, would I feel content with offering another girl on my shoulders? Absolutely not. Therefore, that's micro cheating.
Couldn't agree more. I think most of these, they're all disrespectful, that's for sure. Last one. Your partner tells you that they need to catch up with someone for uni who they're friends with in the evening to complete an assignment, but you know there's mutual attraction there, and the way they communicate isn't just platonic, but they feign ignorance.
Geez, that's a massive description.
Or their work colleagues, or their whatever, or they're talking every night.
Oh well, yeah,
about uni though, or like work, and it's never like, it's like you see the text, but it's like work related, but the frequency is like, who the hell talks about work this much? Who talks about uni this much?
Yeah,
micro cheating or not?
Yeah, look, I think that's a very specific example. If we make it more about just like hanging out with someone late at night that is the opposite sex, I feel like that is disrespectful, very disrespectful. And if there are always excuses for it as to why it keeps happening only late at night, then that is absolutely micro cheating. Because if they were just a friend, go and get a coffee with them during the day, like, and voice that with your partner. And I feel like most people would be completely content with that. I'd feel content with that. But if they are continuously saying, let's meet up at night, and there's always an excuse for what's happening during the day, that's micro cheating. Because there's always time. You can always make time for someone if you truly want to. And if it's always coming back down to night, there's something fishy going on, and I would definitely have my antennas up about that.
Fair enough. That wasn't my question though. If you're texting someone late every day about uni because there's always assignments, or it's work because a big project.
Nah, like I think if you're like, you know, we've all you know, been at uni, or for the people that have been at uni, and you've got assignments at night, and you're literally just texting about assignments, and it's purely work related talk. I don't think that's micro cheating.
Neither do I.
If it goes into talking about other things and it becomes flirty, yeah, it's micro cheating if it becomes flirty. But nah, like if it's purely just work related chat, I feel like that's
the litmus
okay.
test really is really simple here. If your girlfriend asks to read your text,
yeah,
if you are like comfortable to show them,
100%,
and then it's not micro cheating. It's
100%.
simple as that. It's simple as that.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't need to be complicated any further.
Yeah.
If you aren't comfortable showing or doing something or having a certain action or behavior displayed to your partner, the truth is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. It's the best litmus test you could do. You know, when you are on a night out, if you are traveling, if you are in an environment where your girlfriend's not there, just always ask yourself, would I feel uncomfortable with my girlfriend seeing what I'm doing now or watching how I'm acting? If the answer is yes, then reassess what the fuck you're doing.
On that note, guys, we hope you enjoy. We hope we haven't ruined or damaged anyone's potential relationships.
You know what? Maybe it's only made them stronger, which is what we hope for, which is why we do this.
Oh yeah, that's the optimistic take. But I hope you're right. On that note, guys, we hope you enjoy and have a lovely rest of your week. Ciao.